Well, the question that remains to be asked, or maybe it doesn't, but we're going to ask it, is how do we find buyers?
Right. So it remains to be answered.
No, it remained to be asked until I asked it.
So people do often ask us, how do you find a buyer for my home? Because I think there is a bit of an illusion out there as to how simple that process is. So this is the inside track on real estate with the Dekker team.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And I'm Yetta Dekker. And we're going to share a small piece of the information, the knowledge, the experience that we've had over the last, 30 years for me, 25 for Ken, around how do we find buyers for your property. It has actually changed over the last 30 years. And you're saying, well, of course it has. The internet. You never used to find property on.
That's right.
Line.
We had the phone book.
We had the phone book. Do you remember the phone book? We were not allowed to give the phone book away because we only got to pay for one copy. We were only given.
It's not really called a phone book. Well, we called it the phone book.
We did call it the phone book.
Because it was thick and had little square ads for the houses with
black and white
picture and some room measurements and an address.
That was the phone book, so to speak. It was the house property book. I can't remember what it was called. However, we used to slug those things around, and they only printed them, I think it was every 2 weeks, wasn't it?
No, it was once a month.
Anyway, every day we would get daily sheets that had extra little black and white pictures on it. And then we would jam those into the book and carry another binder around, because by the time, that was 2 weeks, but anyway, by the time the next book came out, you had a whole nother book in little photocopied black and white print. So, I mean, it was arduous.
So many people wanted the old book.
We would give the books away. Right.
Which was kind of crazy because in this market, 30-day-old properties are old news.
They are old news.
3-day-old properties sometimes are old news.
1-day-old property is old news sometimes because it's sold. So the market certainly is very different than in the 80s and 90s when we used the so-called MLS phone book to help buyers find property. Mm-hmm. So searching was much more arduous. We could do a little bit of online searching.
So buyers kind of found us because they had no way of finding property.
Well, they did.
Except through driving roads, driving streets,
to look for signs. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that is still a way today that buyers find property or how do we find a buyer for our properties?
Is by putting a sign on.
Is by putting a sign on, and sometimes by somebody calling us to say there's a sign on something, or them finding a sign. So it's all of us working collectively to find that great buyer for your property.
Yeah.
Or find a great property for the buyer. Because I think this question kind of gets answered for both sides, whether you're thinking of selling a home or buying a home, it actually is pertinent.
Yeah. So one of the ways that the Dekker team finds buyers is we're available 14/7.
14/7?
Yes.
Not 24/7?
No. Because we all sleep.
And eat?
And we sleep, usually we all sleep the same kind of period of time, right?
Unless
we
you're a night shift person.
We don't have people on call at night.
Right.
So we have availability 14/7.
Right.
Which means 7 days a week. We are watching our emails, our phone calls, our texts, 14 hours a day. Facebook Messenger as well. Mm-hmm. Looking for buyers who are reaching out on our properties or other properties.
Right.
So that's number one. And for people that want to try and sell their house by themselves, that's a big difference because generally they're not available while they're at work, or they're not available to show it while they're at work. They don't have the instant response time. No, we're not instant, but we do respond very timely.
And
because we have
a team.
A team.
Right. So he was going to get to team. It was just, it didn't sound like it. So I had to make sure I got that word team in there because that is a big difference maker. When I was a solo agent, which it's been 24 years, I guess.
And you put 24/7 on your page.
I know. The very first, I know. It's almost embarrassing. And I will share the story because I don't mind being transparent and authentic. I ordered pens. I used to think that having real estate pens was very important. And so that was a trend. It's not as important today. And it was a big deal back 30 years ago. So I ordered my first pens and I gave them proof the ad for the pens. And they were to say, it's embarrassing actually, 24/7 paging. And the pen showed up without 24/7 on them. And I was horrified because people ought to be able to reach me 24/7. So I thought.
I think 14/7's enough.
I think it's plenty. Because what actually ended up happening, so they did print the pens and I did give them out and I made a big production about 24/7 for about 3 or 4 or 5 years. And then, by then I'd had 3 pretty significant, not nice, car accidents.
Because you were working 24/7.
Because I was attempting to be available 24/7. So I didn't have rest time. I wasn't rejuvenated. I probably wasn't giving as great counsel as I could have been because I was worn out, plumb tired, driving my car into things.
Yeah, real estate today is much more civilized than real estate in some ways. In other ways, it's tougher because people are expecting a much faster response time to an email or a text.
Right.
The other way we find buyers is we have what we call, I don't know what you want to call it, websites. We'll call them websites that are location-based. So they pop up with Google Ads and that kind of thing so that people who want to see properties in a particular town, we have a website for that town, whether it be Canada, Kempville, Ottawa, Nepean, Barhaven, like those kind of communities.
Yep.
We have web addresses for them, and they pop up under Google searches. And then people register with their name and phone number and address. Not address, but email address. And then we nurture that. We nurture that lead because sometimes those people that are just on our sites are 6 months, a year, 2 years out for wanting to buy. But that's one of the ways we build our list of buyers for when we get a property to sell.
Right. So then you can go through that, find the matches, reach out, stay reaching out, stay connected, and that is fantastic. Number 3.
Great home preparation. Because when we prepare our listings, our properties that we're bringing to market for our clients, when they look great, they're attractive to buyers.
Right.
So they attract buyers.
Perfect. And then professional, really high quality, high def, clear, crystal, not too wide angle, yet kind of wide angle, perfect in terms of capturing the right size of the room. So accurate, professional photography and potentially videography. So that presence, that visual presence being not only crisp and clean and pristine, being accurate.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's so important because over 90% of buyers start their search or find their house on the internet. And so if the quality of the photos is not great, you know, like the little pet peeve, put down the toilet seat when you take a picture of a bathroom. Just little preparation things like that before you take photos is hugely important. And making sure the clutter's not there.
Right.
Because on the internet, you might be looking at a very small image that doesn't have super high resolution because they need to load quickly. And if it's cluttered with a bunch of stuff, it's very difficult for people to see the flooring or the colors of the walls or what the cabinets are like in the kitchen because they're distracted by all the pictures on the fridge or something.
Right. So a little bit of pop of color can be nice. You want it to be appealing, visually enticing rather than distracting when you're looking at the photography. So really be aware of, and so having a professional that knows what they're looking at through the lens as to what that's going to look like once it comes into either a property brochure or whether it is going to be on the internet or whether it's going to, because most people now look on a mobile device. So now you don't have a whole huge frame, even with our huge mobile devices. They're getting bigger and bigger, almost the size of TVs, or what TVs used to be. Anyway, so having that mobile look, it still needs to be enticing and good. So better to have less. So we have our professional photographers actually often taking close-ups of those feature items rather than just spans of every room. So anything that's a little bit special or enticing, a particular brick on the fireplace, rather than hoping somebody's eyes will see that in the wide angle shot, you go deep, you go in narrow, and then you've got something that is visually really, really appealing. So really thinking about those singular high-level aspects of the home so that it shows out fantastic in the photography. Because we know what you say. A picture is worth
1,000 words.
Exactly.
And how much is a video worth then?
Oh, even more. So you want to make sure there's nothing distracting in the video that takes the eye away from the very thing you're trying to have somebody see, which is the house.
Right.
Number 5. And how many things are we going to cover?
I think a dozen would be nice.
Okay, so we're going for about 12 here. Maybe we'll go for a baker's dozen. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So number 5.
Share the wealth.
Share the wealth, which just simply means utilize the services that are available for us to populate additional websites.
Yeah, we've opened up not every realtor will open up their listings to all companies.
Won't.
When we get a listing, we open it up to all companies to have it on their website as well. So after a few days, you'll find if you've listed your property for sale with us, you'll see it on a RE/MAX site, you'll see it on C21 site, you'll see it on Royal LePage site, you'll of course see it on Solid Rock site, but it's going to be spread out all over the place on different companies as they're looking to attract buyers. So when they attract buyers, we share our fee for service for getting your home sold. We share that with the other brokerage or other agent, and that way we're sharing the wealth and spreading our net as wide as possible.
Right, because approximately 75 to 80% of all buyers that are actively looking for property, and I mean actively looking, they're not 4 years out, they're actively looking to purchase a home in the next, we'll say, 0 to 6 months, they are likely already working with a realtor. Like 75 to 80% of them have likely already signed buyer representation paperwork and affiliated themselves with a realtor that they know when they find the home of their dreams, they're going to work with that realtor to assist them. So because of that, we want to make sure we spread the news that your home is for sale to as many of those real estate companies and potential buyers, because we're really marketing to 2 groups of people. We're marketing to the buyer, and we're also presenting and promoting and marketing your property to agents. So that's part of utilizing that extended reach by putting our properties out there to all kinds of other companies' websites.
Right. Number 6 you already talked about.
I did.
The sign. And sometimes we have clients that say, I don't want a sign. And we say, okay. And what you're doing is it might be a small percentage that will buy because of the sign, or it may be a neighbor down the road that sees the sign and calls somebody that they know because they wanted to live in the neighborhood. The sign does work. And as a realtor, it makes it a lot easier to find your house when I'm going down the street and I look for the for sale sign so that I know that's the house I'm showing.
Right. It creates more energy around your property being available. And
especially when it's dark. Like trying to read the numbers above a garage in the dark is brutal.
And we're moving in, we're in the fall, late fall already. And so this is the time of year where we're doing a lot of evening showings out there trying to find property. So a sign is actually your ally if your home is for sale. And if you're a buyer, the sign is your ally as well because it makes it easier to find the property. And if you're a realtor, well, of course it's your ally. So the statistics have changed a little bit over the years. It used to be 25% of homes were sold due to the sign.
Yeah.
Now it's less because of the internet, but it's still somewhere around 10% where there's sign recognition or seeing the sign, or so that was the first reason to go on the internet, to go and look up the property because they were driving through a neighborhood. Because often if you want to live somewhere specific, or even if you're relocating from out of town, you have friends or people you know or love or your realtor that's driving through that community that you want to be living in. And the sign often today actually goes onto the property before the property is put into the MLS system or onto the computer.
On there for 2-3 days before, because you come to do your measurements and pictures and you make one trip. So you put the sign up and then you do all your inputting into the computer and processing your photos, maybe 2-3 days before it actually hits the MLS system.
Right.
And someone who saw the sign has maybe a 2 or 3 day advantage.
And sometimes it's weeks, because there is another thing that's out there now, which is something that's just a little topper that says coming soon to MLS. So sometimes it's a pre-launch of the property.
Well, they're doing some work on it or something.
Well, they're doing work. And in fact, with the vast majority of our sellers, we actually will have the property listed available for people to know about it, building the funnel, often days to weeks, even a month, long before it goes on the more, the heightened exposure. And that's just a start to build the funnel so that there's a bit of pent-up demand by the time the property comes onto the market. So the sign is a valuable tool, especially during that period of time.
Now, recently we sold a house.
Yeah.
And this item for looking for buyers is typically 1% of homes sell, maybe even a little less than 1%.
0.76 to 1%, depending on the study that you're looking at.
Yeah. And open houses. Now, it was interesting because this particular seller also didn't want a for sale sign because they felt it would not be seen, because they are in a little enclave.
Yeah. Like
nobody would go in there,
10
really,
houses.
hardly anybody.
Yeah. Except the neighbor would see it and tell somebody.
I know, but they chose not to.
Right.
And then they were getting a little antsy about getting their home sold. And they were going away for the weekend. So I said, hey, why don't we just do an open house while you're gone? And they said, okay, why not? It doesn't disturb us at all. So Candace went out and put signs up of the day of the open house.
Early in the day.
Early in the day.
Because that's part of how to make an open house work for you, right? There's a whole open house strategy. Just to throw the signs out is not enough.
Yeah. And what's interesting is there were actually 3 people, well, there were more than 3 people came through, but 3 people came through who didn't have a realtor at the time, all looking for a property. The one person that ended up buying it actually came through looking for a condo. They were looking for an apartment condo, but they saw the sign. They were in town for the day and thought, well, I'll just pop in and see. And they fell in love with the house, came back a few days later with their spouse, and they ended up buying the property.
Right. And I bet you're thinking, because I know when I was first listening to this story and all the different experiences we have, you're thinking, it's a $200,000 house, or it's a $300,000 townhouse. It's, just a little property. Because seriously, who's going to look at a home when they weren't actively looking for that kind of thing and then buy it, unless it's like an investor or somebody that really is always looking for property, or maybe have been looking but just not found that right thing, and here it is. So it's a real low price property and a real bargain. This was more in the $1 million range. Yeah, so
just below 900,000.
I know, I said range.
Yeah.
So it's incredible that you can't say, hey, open houses work for this price range or this location. I mean, there are areas that they're more viable. There are times where it'll be more effective. And yet of all of our open house strategies, because now there's another entire conversation, there's 12 steps to having an effective open house, to making sure that we're getting as many people through that open house that are actually meant to be going through that open house. So that's a separate conversation. That's not for the purpose of today's show. And yet there's a 12-step process to get the most out of an open house. When we know that it's only 0.76 to 1% of homes that are sold through open houses. You know, it's not the first strategy we're going to utilize. We're talking about it at number 7. And yet, if we're going to utilize that strategy, then let's go big or go home. So let's go big with that strategy. And in this case, it helped us.
We always say.
Go big and then go home.
And then go home.
Because that's what Yetta does.
All right. Multiple websites is another way of attracting buyers for your property. And so we have multiple websites where our properties are.
Right, including the Dekker Team website, including the Solid Rock website, of course, including... See, it's interesting here.
YouTube.
Right. We said we would talk about how do we find buyers for your property. What I just realized is we have not once in our list of 12 mentioned the multiple listing service.
Well, we're not, yeah.
And
Well,
it's not even on our list, right? But what I mean is it's just one tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
So at the top of the show, I was saying what people believe is the thing that you must do. The only thing you must do is get it on the multiple listing service and onto realtor.ca. And yet it's just one of the websites that's buried in point number 8. It's not like a whole strategy unto itself. It's a small piece of the overall strategy. And the reason we know that it's not enough is because there's still a significant number of homes that come onto the multiple listing service, whether in a seller's market or a buyer's market, that never sell. The percentage shifts whether we're sitting in a seller's market or a buyer's market. However, not everything is selling. And so if MLS was sufficient or realtor.ca was sufficient, everything would be sold.
Yep.
Not enough. So one piece of one strategy in point number 8 is buried MLS as a tool. How fun is that?
That's fun. Print media.
Right.
Now, this is going down.
It is. It's not dead, though.
It's not dead, but it's on life support. Print media for advertising homes. We do have some print media still out there, the Bearer and the Neighbors Analytic, and but really the quantity of calls from buyers from those methods are very limited.
Very limited.
Like I said, over 90% go to the internet as their first step.
Right. In the Bearer, just touch on that for a minute because it actually still is the one print, and it's mostly electronic now, actually, even. And yet it's the one print medium that we promote our properties in and electronic. So we actually have both versions, living in Ottawa, the Bearer in Ottawa, as well as in a few isolated communities. And the reason it works is it's not really a real estate publication. It is, and it isn't. So it's kind of like incognito. So it's a community newsletter with wants and for sales. It's kind of like the former Kijiji and News Ottawa, like it existed before those things were even dreamed up. And so people are looking through it for general knowledge and then see a property that might suit them or somebody they know. So it's amazing that our calls from potential buyers always increases when that publication goes out. And it's coming up to 30 years that it was birthed.
Yeah.
Which next year is our 30th year, so we'll do a whole campaign about 30 years community news and serving the communities through that free publication. So if you're a business or actually you have something you'd like to sell or something you're looking for, this is another tool that you can use to get the word out there to others.
Yep, and if you want to submit an ad for free, Bearer at DekkerTeam.com. BEARER
at DekkerTeam.com, and that's Dekker with double K. So Bearer, like bearer of news, at DekkerTeam.com.
And number 10, you gotta love number 10, because if you're listening to CHRI 99.1 FM, how am I doing, Dan? Is that good announcer voice? Maybe I could get a job?
No, no job, Dan says.
No job for Ken on the radio, okay. Although I'm on the radio now, I fooled them, didn't I? CHRI attracts buyers for our listings.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does. Many buyers, investor clients who want to buy properties to build wealth with or to give to the generations below them.
Legacy building.
Creating, legacies and generational wealth. People who are buying their first home, people that are upgrading, people that are downsizing. all kinds of things through CHRI. What a great radio station. And thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting it. And it's a great ministry.
And number 11.
Yeah.
That was 10.
That was 10.
And number 11 is people that we've worked with in the past, as well as people that have already reached out to us in the past to say, you are our realtor of choice, even if we haven't had an opportunity to move yet. When we do, you are the team. And so all of those folks we connect with both by having workshops, by having family gatherings, by email, by phone call, by letting you know what is going on in the real estate market, by a real estate update. So there's all kinds of ways that there's probably like an 8-step process.
In fact, there was one time we sold the property to a gentleman. They'd been there for about a year.
Yep.
No intention of moving or selling. And they saw one of our updates with a house in it that was down the street from them. And they said, that is what's the perfect house for us. And they went and saw it, and they put an offer in on it. Yeah. So,
and that's happened
exciting.
Often, like not just once in a while. It's huge how just that community that's been created with the Dekker team and those that love us and we love them gives us opportunity to put your properties in front of them. And then there's like, it's this matchmaker, make me a match.
Yeah. Because we have thousands of clients in our data bank.
Right.
And then number 12, YouTube. It's kind of a website, but it's a little bit different because it's primarily videos.
Right.
Buyers come on to our YouTube channel, Dekker Team. They come on looking for information. They come on looking for property videos. They come on for information as they're just gathering knowledge on how do I get approved for a mortgage? How do I qualify? What percentage down do I need? Anything like that. They're gathering information off the YouTube Dekker Team channel.
Absolutely. And the Baker's Dozen. I promised 13, and 13 Baker's
Let's see
Dozen.
if you got the same one as me.
Is
here we go.
Social engagement. Social media presence.
Okay, then I'm going to give 14.
Oh my goodness. See, the list goes on and on. I bet if we took even an extra hour to come up with our list, we could get to 20, no sweat, of ways that we connect with buyers. And actually many of these points have 2 to 10
media.
underneath it.
You do like Facebook and Twitter and stuff
Instagram,
like that.
and where, Candace is amazingly creative at engaging the conversation around the property we have for sale when it's coming to market, so that it entices people to reach out in a way that they wouldn't otherwise, because it's creative and it's fun and it's playful. It's part of that whole play structure.
Yes. Do you want to know mine?
Sure.
Number 14 is we pray for buyers for our listings.
Well,
we pray with our clients.
Yeah.
We pray for them weekly and daily in our team meetings for those that are, they're in a position they need to sell.
Yeah.
We pray for the right buyer to come.
For everybody, not just those that are in a tight spot.
Yeah, but for everybody.
Okay.
We're praying for that right buyer. So that's awesome.
So moving forward together is the name of our mission, we'll call it. So thank you for moving forward together, and we look forward to continuing to do just that.